Enjoy a narrated virtual tour of attack aircraft exhibited at the National Naval Aviation Museum. See photos and videos that cover a range of attack aircraft from the Martin AM Mauler through the McDonnell Douglas AV-8 Harrier. Some of the photos and videos in this tour are of the same model aircraft but were captured at other museums. The museum is located on Naval Air Station Pensacola in Florida. Martin's AM Mauler was designed as an attack aircraft that would perform World War II scouting and torpedo bombing duties. It had 4 20mm cannon in its wings and could carry 4,500 pounds of ordnance. Introduced in 1948, pilots found Maulers a heavy-handling aircraft that was difficult to fly in formation and hard to land on a carrier. Hydraulic leaks and its poor carrier performance coupled with the introduction of the Douglas AD Skyraider led to its early exit from carrier duties. It saw limited service with the Atlantic Fleet until it was relegated to service only with the Naval Air Reserve in 1950, where it served until 1953. The Douglas AD Skyraider was the backbone of Naval Air Attack Forces in Korea, with the first Skyraiders going into action from USS Valley Forge. Its ability to employ a wide variety of weapons allowed it to be used against nearly all Korean targets, earning it the reputation of the most effective close support aircraft in the world at that time. Skyraiders attacked heavily defended industrial targets such as power plants and bridges and even knocked out the Hwakan Dam. They continued in first-line service well into the Vietnam conflict, where they once again were star performers in a close air support role. They flew attack missions until 1968 when sophisticated anti-aircraft defenses made it too hazardous. The 1962 Tri-Service Aircraft Designation System changed the Skyraider designation from AD to A1. The last Skyraider left active service late in 1971. The introduction of nuclear bombs into the U.S. weapons arsenal allowed carrier-based aircraft to achieve a true strategic strike capability in addition to their mobile tactical role. When first deployed in 1950, the North American A.J. Savage was too large and heavy to be used by any American aircraft carrier except for the Midway class. The aircraft was not popular aboard ship as it was so big and cumbersome that it complicated other flight operations. Early in the Savage's career, squadrons would typically deploy a detachment to Naval Air Station Port Loti, Morocco, for service with the 6th Fleet and fly the bombers aboard aircraft carriers that were already deployed to the Mediterranean as needed. The tactic to deliver the bombs was to fly at low level through Bulgaria and Romania before climbing at maximum power to the proper altitude to release the bomb. The aircraft would then perform a wing-over maneuver and dive to low altitude, keeping the tail of the aircraft aimed at the target to avoid serious damage from the explosion's shockwave. Savages were replaced by Douglas A-3 Sky Warriors beginning in 1959. The first deliveries of these Douglas A-3 Sky Warriors was March 1956. The following year, the A-3D2 arrived, featuring more powerful engines, an in-flight refueling system and a modified bomb bay to accommodate a wider range of weapons. The development of ICBMs and cruise missiles plus the size reduction of nuclear weapons made A-3s available for special missions. For most of the Vietnam War, EA-3Bs flew from Da Nang Air Base, providing electronic reconnaissance capability over the Ho Chi Minh Trail and all the way north to Haiphong Harbor. In these roles, Sky Warriors supported the Southeast Asia combat action of the next decade, as well as serving Navy mission needs elsewhere in the world. The last A-3 Sky Warriors were removed from the naval aircraft inventory in March 1991. The Navy operated the Douglas A-4 Skyhawk, introduced in 1954, in both regular Navy and Naval Reserve light attack squadrons. The Skyhawk's 5 hardpoints support a variety of missiles, bombs and other munitions. It was capable of carrying a bomb load equivalent to that of a World War II-era Boeing B-17 bomber and could deliver nuclear weapons using a low-altitude bombing system and a loft delivery technique. Skyhawks were the Navy's primary light attack aircraft used over North Vietnam early in the campaign, and they played key roles in the Yom Kippur and the Falklands Wars. The Navy began removing Skyhawks from its frontline attack squadrons in 1967, with the last ones retired in 1976. The North American A-3J Vigilante was originally designed as a Mach 2 all-weather bomber capable of delivering nuclear weapons. It was modified into a high-speed reconnaissance aircraft after the Navy's strategic bombing mission was assumed by nuclear submarines and redesignated RA-5C. 8 of the 10 Vigilante reconnaissance squadrons saw extensive service in the Vietnam War, carrying out hazardous medium-level post-strike reconnaissance missions. 18 Vigilantes were lost to enemy fire during the Vietnam War, the highest loss rate of any Navy aircraft during the war. With the end of the Vietnam War, disestablishment of reconnaissance attack squadrons began in 1974, with the last Vigilante squadron completing its final deployment to the Western Pacific aboard USS Ranger in late 1979. When introduced in 1963, Grumman's A-6 Intruder was the world's first fully all-weather attack bomber. It could detect and identify tactical or strategic targets and deliver both conventional and nuclear ordnance on them under zero visibility conditions. It could carry all U.S. and NATO air-to-ground weapons in its 5 external store stations with a payload of 18,000 pounds. The all-weather navigation and weapons delivery system provides an integrated electronic display which allows the two-man crew to see targets and geographical features regardless of the effects of darkness or foul weather. This ability resulted in intruders often being used as a pathfinder for other types of attack aircraft, allowing their use under conditions which would not normally permit a successful mission. Its primary job of surface-to-air missile suppression was due to an avionics modification with provisions for the Navy's anti-radiation missile. The A-6C, born of the Southwest Asia War, incorporates electro-optical sensors to observe and attack vehicles moving under cover of darkness. The Intruder was the mainstay of the Navy and Marine Corps air arms for more than 3 decades. It was replaced by the FA-18 Hornet, resulting in its retirement in 1997. The chance-fought A-7A Corsair II's first flight was in September 1965, and exactly a year later the first operational squadrons began receiving them for pilot training. At that time naval aviation was heavily engaged in the air war over Vietnam, meaning that the 1st Tactical Squadron flew their first missions over North Vietnam in December 1967. The final version of the Corsair II was the A-7E, which had improved hydraulic systems and a multi-barrel M61 cannon. Its first combat missions were over Vietnam in May 1970, and was part of the Navy's offensive firepower during the Operation Linebacker strikes and the 1972 aerial mining of North Vietnamese ports. Following the end of the Vietnam War, it remained a mainstay on carrier flight decks, called into combat action throughout the 1980s in Grenada, Lebanon, Libya, and Panama. By the time Navy carriers launched their first strikes into Iraq and Kuwait as part of Operation Desert Storm in January 1991, only 2 A-7E squadrons remained, operating from the John F. Kennedy. It marked the final deployment of the Corsair II, whose beginning and end came in the face of enemy fire. The McDonnell Douglas Harrier was the first operational ground attack and reconnaissance aircraft with vertical short takeoff and landing capabilities. Harriers entered service with the Marine Corps in 1971, replacing other aircraft in the Marines' attack squadrons. In 1976, tests showed that the Harrier was capable of performing in weather where conventional carrier aircraft could not operate. The Marine Corps concept for deploying the Harriers in a land-based expeditionary role focused on aggressive speed. Harrier forward bases and light maintenance facilities were to be set up in under 24 hours on any prospective battle area. The forward bases, containing 1 to 4 aircraft, were to be located 20 miles from the forward edge of battle, while a more established permanent airbase would be located around 50 miles from the edge. The close proximity of forward bases allowed for a far greater sortie rate and reduced fuel consumption. As of May 2023, 3 Marine attack squadrons still fly them, with final Harrier replacement expected by 2025. I hope you enjoyed this narrated virtual tour of the National Naval Aviation Museum's attack aircraft. If you would like to tour other aircraft in this series, you will find convenient links in the description section below this video. Here are YouTube suggested links on a similar topic that you may enjoy viewing.